Thank you everyone so much for joining, and thank you, Ravina. I'm so excited that we get to chat here today. For those who aren't familiar with Volition and with myself, my name is Melanie Ewan, and I'm one of the co-founders and managing partners at Volition. And essentially, we are dedicated to elevating entrepreneurship through skills-based training, as well as community events and one-on-one coaching. So I got to meet Ravina. Actually, the first time I think I met you was when you were collaborating with a League of Innovators to put on some content, I think.
Oh, yes.
Different event content.
Yes, we were hosting a lunch and learn with them.
Yes, exactly. So I saw that you had applied to pitch at one of our events, and then I saw you hosting that, and I was like, oh, wow, that's really cool. And then, of course, when you came to pitch, you captured everyone's hearts, and the audience voted you in the top as a top pitcher, and the rest is kind of history there. But it was really fantastic to get to meet you in various capacities in the Canadian startup ecosystem over the last few months, and I'm really incredibly impressed. And I think everyone's incredibly impressed by everything that you and your team have been doing. So, as I mentioned, I'm really excited to introduce Ravina if you don't know her yet. And my understanding is that you're the Chief Operations Officer as well as the Chief of Innovation, which I'm quite keen. I'm like, with these fun titles, I'm always keen to know what exactly that means in the context of your company. So I'd love to know that. And for those who aren't familiar with FLIK, I was just hanging out on the website, which is weareflik, FLIK.com, if you want to check it out at any point in time during our chat here today. But essentially, my understanding is that FLIK stands for Female Laboratory of Innovative Knowledge. And I have kind of a description of what it is, but I think I would actually prefer to have you jump in and talk about that. And for those who haven't been on these chats before, it's kind of 30-minute casual conversation, a bit of a facilitated conversation, but we would love to have your questions. So I'll be asking questions, but please do ask your questions as well. I have, is it Serene? Am I pronouncing this? Okay, saying Ravina is the bomb. Check out at We Are FLIK. Yes, fantastic. So I'd love to just pass it to you and let us know what Female Laboratory of Innovative Knowledge means. Like, where did this come from? What is the Chief of Innovation? I know that's, if you've watched any of these before, you'll know that I tend to ask lots of questions at the same time, but I just get so excited. And I would love to know a packaged understanding of the story of you within the context of FLIK. Yeah. So first question, hand it over to you.
Yeah, just to get an idea of what FLIK is. So FLIK connects female founders and leaders, such as Serene, who's listening in right now, with ambitious, verified female talent. And I can see one of our apprentices saying is also joining us today. And
amazing.
That allows them to connect with one another and engage in a 3-month apprenticeship for 10 hours or less a week. And it allows young women to get experience, mentorship, and experiential learning, while female founders and leaders actually have that opportunity to grow and accelerate their business, their idea, their social enterprise, and really give back to the next generation of female entrepreneurs at the same time, providing them that meaningful mentorship. So it's really a win-win on both ends. And to that degree, where this idea came out from was my co-founder Michelle and we were both STEM students actually, and I like to say, in a very serendipitous way, we ended up at a program called Next 36 based in Toronto. And what we quickly realized was we were one of the only few women who were accepted into the program, let alone for myself, I was one of the only South Asian women. And that was a quite interesting experience. So over those 4 months of learning about business and entrepreneurship, Michelle and I realized that there were no female founders really around us either in the ecosystem. There was definitely a lack of female investors as well.
Yeah.
And so using our creative backgrounds, Michelle had worked with companies such as Bumble and was an amazing videographer. And I absolutely loved the idea of storytelling and photography. So combined with those creative interests that we had, we cold emailed a bunch of different female founders who we knew of personally in different parts of the world, and asked them to do an interview with us and create really cool videos that were engaging, that could tell their story of entrepreneurship and hopefully inspire other young women.
Yeah.
And while we were doing that, putting out that content, flying to New York, interviewing incredible female founders, a lot of young people were reaching out to us saying, wow, I wish that I knew that this was a career path that I could take, that entrepreneurship was an option, or that
Yeah.
regardless of my background and what I studied, I too could start a business or build an idea out. And that's sort of when Michelle and I went back to the drawing board and we were like, okay, we need to connect these types of people. We need to connect these ambitious young women with these other women who are already established and creating and innovating, and show them that it is possible in a tangible way. And that's where the idea for an apprenticeship portal really came about. And we launched in early January of this year. And to date, we've had over 4,000 applicants from over 30 different countries around the world.
That's absolutely incredible what you've done. Yeah, massive kudos and congratulations. So when was that aha moment? You're talking about how you were going all over, and the video series, is this the Phenom video series?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So FENOM, hashtag FENOM, I think. If you head over again to weareflik.com and you go to the bottom, you'll see this video series. I just saw it today and I was like, ooh, I'm going to ask about this. So that's really exciting. Now I'm really, really quite stoked to go back and watch that. But you're talking about how you were creating those videos and starting to see this real need. When did you decide to switch into launching FLIK? Like when did you have that? How long? Like when from ideation to actually launch is what I'm asking.
So we were doing those interviews last summer, and I think as we were doing those interviews, we were putting out the content. FLIK was already a thing. FLIK was that media company that was producing these videos and engaging content. And near the end of our program, so early August, September, Michelle and I were always looking at a way that we could create a tangible impact, something that was quantifiable, something that was actually resulting in women being encouraged to pursue entrepreneurship, not just putting out content and letting them be inspired, but actually providing them with the opportunities and helping us create something that would meet them where they were, not them coming to us, but us creating something that they could access regardless of where they were in the world. So I think it was very seamless in that way, that from these content, from the video, from the feedback, it was so organic that we were getting this from both female founders and most often post-secondary students or recent grads. And going back to that drawing board in September and then laying this all out of what it could be. Even before we actually went into the video series, I actually had my dorm room with Michelle all boarded up in different posters and stuff of what FLIK could become beyond just a media series. So whether it was leveraging technology or what type of opportunities we really wanted to create for disadvantaged and marginalized women around the world.
Yeah. Oh, it's incredible. Yeah. Oh, I love it so much. And I love that you're listening to your audience and you heard what they needed and wanted and developed something. That's something that a lot of the time, it sounds so, it's not like you created a product and then tried to create that market fit for a product that you already had in your mind. Like you created out of what they actually wanted and needed and were talking about. Which is incredible.
That was special to us is that we were cultivating a community. We were fostering something that was meaningful to the women around us. And from there, listening to their voices, listening to their needs, and figuring out, okay, how can we fulfill the needs of our community? Not just exactly what you said, creating something out of thin air, but really listening to the people and seeing what our community needed. And I think that's something as we grow, we really stay foundational to that community roots, to making sure that we are listening to diverse perspectives, that we are taking the time to listen to our community, whether that's opening up our calendars, getting on a phone call, or engaging with them through different events and workshops.
Yeah. Yes. And speaking of which, I know you've done so much work with engaging with your community over the last kind of, in my viewpoint, I guess, especially like kind of 8 months. So you launched in January. Now, is it a virtual platform? Is everything virtual? Okay.
Yeah, so it's an online platform where they can connect and request and engage with different individuals to see what's the proper fit for their apprenticeship. Yeah. And then from there on, of course, with COVID going on, a lot of the apprenticeships have been virtual, which has been amazing to see women, for example, in India connecting with a female founder based in LA or New York. Who's of South Asian descent, for example, and being able to take on that virtual apprenticeship. Of course, if they can manage the time differences.
Yes.
With of course, nowadays with technology, I mean, possibilities are endless, right?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think that has been an amazing thing to see women, regardless really of no matter where they are, they're being able to be connected to an opportunity to accelerate both their career experience, but also that mentorship aspect.
Right. Okay. So would you say that the COVID itself impacted FLIK, or did it just like take it in a different direction or create new opportunities? Like what does that look like for you then?
Yeah, so it's interesting because we launched the beta of that platform
Yeah.
in January. Of course, COVID trickled up pretty fast after that.
Yeah.
And what we saw was, of course, a huge increase in applicants because a lot of students were having their summer opportunities rescinded,
Right.
taken away from them. And at the same time, there were reports already coming out that female entrepreneurs and business owners were going to be disproportionately impacted by COVID-19. Of course, having to stay at home, the caregiver aspect, multiple ways in which women are really impacted.
Yeah.
And so thinking quick on our feet, we knew that we could really leverage our tool to be a resource to both female founders and women that still needed a summer opportunity. So we definitely saw a huge increase in interest and applications because of the circumstances. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, being mindful once again of our community, we knew that female founders were going to be disproportionately impacted. And so we suspended our payment rollout to make sure that we could be an accessible resource for women around the world.
Right. Yes. Okay. So I was going to ask about that, and that I think people are often curious about these kinds of platforms, about what does the business model of that actually look like, and like there's other people who have been impacted by COVID in similar ways and decided to suspend payments as well, and like logistically, is there like what's your plan kind of going forward? Do you know, crystal ball wise, what do you envision for FLIK, and do you see like a longer term impact of COVID, or have you decided to go in a different direction in terms of business model? Yeah, I'm kind of curious about like that business side of things. If you're comfortable going into the details, I'd be
Yeah.
curious.
Yeah, no, of course. So within the next month and a half, you know, we've been taking that time to listen to our community the past few months.
Yeah.
And in the next month and a half, we will be rolling out a paywall, but that is based off of what our community has spoken
Right.
to with
Yeah.
to ensure that we are sustainable, that we can
Exactly.
keep going and make sure that we are accessible for women around the world. And I think it really comes down to those community roots, because we are built on community.
Yeah.
There is a sense of emotional fulfillment that both sides are getting from helping one another. And that's what our platform is all about. So, you know, we've come up with a model that is accessible for women, no matter what stage they might be in their company at this point, that
Yeah.
we believe will be feasible with people that have been impacted by COVID. And we are thinking through different measures that if people still, you know, can't afford an accessible fee, the ways in which we can still work together with them. I think that's really important, is making sure that we are still extending our hand out to everyone around us and seeing the ways in which we can work together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Amazing. And I will say, if anyone's been following FLIK the past few months, you've been so visible yourselves, and I think have become role models for a lot of women in business and women in STEM. You've both coming from STEM backgrounds as well, which is incredible. But you've been, you know, collaborating with people like League of Innovators, and you've been kind of everywhere I look, you seem to be on another interview or something to that effect. And so I think that's really incredible. And is that like, knowing how to do that and the approach to take, does that come from your creative backgrounds, or like how did you learn or decide to take this approach the past few months in particular?
Yeah, I think it naturally, honestly, just came about in terms of opportunity and speaking to other young people that they could, you know, take their ideas and build a business, or that you could really be someone from a path that is very diverse, that is different, but owning your own experience and then taking that and building something is unique in itself. And that regardless of what your background is, your ethnicity, your gender, there are different ways in which you can elevate your ideas and collaborate with people from different parts of the aisle in order to make sure that you are creating something that you're passionate about. And I think that just came naturally, both from us being recent graduates, being individuals of diverse backgrounds, and wanting to help our community and be there for them. And I think it is interesting because we did have these very creative sides where we loved videography and photography. So naturally, we just wanted to be in a space where we were creating content that was actually meaningful for our community, that was meaningful for the diverse women, and people walking different paths.
Yes, very cool. And in terms of people who you're finding are coming to FLIK to find apprenticeships, I'm curious. I know people watching here today are and let us know in the comments. Are you more like the person interested in becoming an apprentice, or would you be kind of the founder or company who would be interested in getting apprentices? I'm curious about the people who are coming as potential apprentices. Who, like, what is that? Who is that? What's that profile look like? What have you seen?
Yeah, so for apprentices, most often it's been post-secondary students or recent graduates. And another funny area, I suppose, are women who are early on in their career, who are actually working, for example, for the Big Five or notable tech companies that are thinking to themselves, this isn't exactly what I signed up for. This isn't where my passions lie, and this isn't the social legacy that I want to leave. I do want to create something for my own. And I think that's where the less than 10 hours a week in the apprenticeship provides that freedom and flexibility to still maintain the job that they might have, but explore different pathways and areas that they can get involved with, and recognize that even if you did a degree in finance or you did a degree in biology, you can go into completely different industries and use those skills that you have learned and transfer them into a completely different industry. And I think that's something really special, that if you are in finance but you love fashion, you can go work for a tech company that's creating a more seamless process for fashion designers, for example. And so I think that's something special and unique of how can we use our interdisciplinary backgrounds, our desire to learn about technical information, but also express things through a creative lens, and how do you bridge those two together? So that's been a really exciting thing, and I can see that within our community, people jumping into completely different things. And I think that's super special because that's the way in which I learned best.
Absolutely. I feel like there's probably also opportunity for, yes, people who are early on in their career, but also people who are looking at reskilling, which is a huge topic of conversation in the Canadian tech ecosystem right now, and as well as newcomers to Canada. I feel like I've been talking to a few different organizations in Ontario that support women in tech that are newcomers to Canada specifically, and the issue is not having access to networks and to those kind of mentors and apprenticeship, like not having the network already in place, which is such an advantage, unfair advantage to people who were born in the place that they currently live and are trying to find work in. So I think there's so many incredible opportunities, and I really appreciate what you're doing. My other hat being I'm one of the lead researchers and on the board of Women in Tech World. So we work really hard to create community-based research and understand what women in tech in Canada and beyond are experiencing, and what, like from that community-based lens and listening to the community, what are they experiencing? What are the challenges and barriers? But also, like, how do they want us to be helping them overcome those? And how, like, what kind of action plans do they want to see put in place? And we found in our original research that entry level, but also like middle management women in tech were really struggling because a lot of programming out there and government funded kind of initiatives are all for founders and leaders and not supporting those middle managers or entry level or the people who are wanting to reskill or who left to have a family and are coming back, and all those different people who are getting lost along the way. And you know, retention of women in tech is just incredibly low for so many bazillion different reasons. But I think like what you're doing answers so many of these of what we heard that people want. So love hearing that. So welcome everyone. By the way, I saw a lot more people have joined since we've said hello at the beginning. So welcome everyone. Really lovely to see you here. Again, my name is Melanie, and this is Ravina, the COO and Chief of Innovation at FLIK. So we're just having a conversation, which is going to be on IGTV afterwards. So if you didn't see the beginning and want to, which I highly recommend, come back and watch that later. And feel free to say hello, and feel free to tell us where you're joining from, and if you have any kind of questions as we get into the last little bit here. I know we talked a lot at the beginning about the weather, so if you're okay to go kind of 5 minutes over, I would love to love to be
Yeah,
able to do that because I'm
for
so
sure.
impatient still. Okay, amazing. And I know, like you've been touching on that need for people to leverage their diverse experiences and background, which I know is an important topic too, and really
Yeah.
appreciate you speaking to that here today. So we also talked about COVID already a little bit, so I'm going to leave that kind of behind. I think you've done an incredible job, and I'm really excited about everything you've been doing. We talked about a little bit about the vision of the company. Was there and kind of the next few months, but a lot of time people who come to these are often the people in the audience are asking, but what does like 1 year from now look like, or 5 years from now look like? Like, what is your vision? What's like, big, hairy, audacious goal kind of thing? Like, what would you love to see the evolution of FLIK be? I'm curious.
I always laugh at this question because and Michelle, usually she's with me when we're at this, and we just start laughing because when I was boarding up the walls in our room,
Yeah.
there are just so many ideas. There's just
Yeah.
such a grand vision for different pillars that can be created. But something really meaningful for both of us is really to be with everyone throughout their entrepreneurial journey. So from the moment that apprentice signs up all the way to the moment that hopefully she becomes herself a female founder and signs up as a female founder one day, and having that whole journey with us. And for FLIK to really become the most comprehensive resource for women in entrepreneurship and female founders globally around the world, and touching those untapped high potential areas such as India and Africa, and these areas in which women are just completely remarkable. I can't even put it into words because they're so brilliant, but providing them with the access and opportunity and really leveraging technology in a unique way that can help women on an unparalleled level. And so really for FLIK to become that comprehensive resource that can help people throughout their entire journey.
So how can us, your community, those of us who love and adore FLIK and all that you do, how can we help you? Like, what is your ask of us? How can we support what you're doing?
I mean, it would be amazing if you know a female founder yourself to let them know about FLIK. If you know about other ambitious, self-identifying females around you, let them know about the opportunity to become an apprentice. So really just speaking out, spreading that word about the platform that is there to help women if they need to go through a career transition, if they need to get experience, mentorship, and acknowledging that this is a tangible way, that this is something real, that you're engaging in something that's meaningful and can have a tremendous impact on what you end up doing afterwards. It's not just another space where you're reading about different stories or you are engaging in a community that isn't necessarily providing you with something to help elevate you and the experience that you want to get. So I think if anything, it's really a tangible impact that can significantly shift the direction that you go with afterwards.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So let everybody know, and let the men in your lives, let all genders in your lives know, everyone.
Let everyone know.
Your pets if you want. You never know who's listening. So because we all know women probably in these categories that you're talking about. So let them know, or just like go check out FLIK and learn more about them, and follow FLIK and all they're doing. So what's kind of the best place for people to connect with you?
Yeah, for sure. So they can, of course, follow this Instagram account, We Are FLIK. Feel free to email me, Ravina at weareflik.com, and you can visit the website, www.weareflik.com. Our tag handles everywhere: LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you name it. Actually, our amazing content designer, Kiersey, just joined us as well. So you can check out our fabulous graphics that are constantly made by her throughout our Instagram feed. And yeah, just feel free to reach out anytime.
Yeah, honestly, your Instagram feed is so cheerful. It makes me very happy. And I was just like, I was really happy and impressed that like when I opened my Instagram today, there like popped up a little thing where you created one for me, and I was like, what?
Yes, so
So exciting.
kudos to Kirsay and of course to Layla as well, who created
Yeah.
yours. So it is just a space where you can feel excited, engaged, and relate to the material that we're creating.
Yeah, yeah. Very cheerful, happy spaces. I love it. Okay, so I feel like you've already given a lot of tips around entrepreneurship, at least your journey to entrepreneurship, like, you know, listening to your community and being engaged and, all the things that you've been talking about so far, and getting, you know, see what's happening in trajectories and trends and kind of leaning into those as well, and being aware of like where people are at in terms of the journey of 2020, and being mindful of that, but also knowing that, you know, to be sustainable, you do have to charge something at some point in time. So I'm really happy you have a plan in place for that as well, so that a year, 3 years from now, I will be able to see you growing. So I'd love to know, like, if is there any other kind of tips for your peer entrepreneurs, particularly those who are maybe a little bit earlier stage or kind of launch during this time or are planning to launch later this year? So any kind of like earlier stage entrepreneurs, do you have any additional tips, words of wisdom, lessons learned that you wanted to share?
Well, first of all, I love that they even think about starting an idea right now. I think that's the most important thing. And usually the most difficult hurdle is getting started and focusing on what's my vision, what can I create and build, and just those moving parts that really get to you of like, hey, this is actually going to be something. So that's really special, and that's an important thing to always constantly acknowledge. And I think we're still at that stage and that we are learning different things, but always listen to your community, whatever you're growing, listen to the people around you and figure out what are those pain points, and what is the special way in which you can create something unique based off of the diverse experience that you've had yourself, to really provide a tangible solution that can help leave social impact, essentially. That's something that I'm passionate about, is social entrepreneurship, and I would encourage people who are early stage to reflect on those values that they're creating for their company, and think about the social mission that's going to drive forward their vision and what they're building.
Now, I am curious as well. So this social impact entrepreneurship has been the topic of many conversations, I'd say probably in the last like 2-ish years more so. It's been gaining a lot more traction in conversations. And I'm always curious about kind of young entrepreneurs, where like when did this become a thing to you where you're like, I can be an entrepreneur and that social entrepreneurship is a thing and I can actually make this happen? I honestly had no idea that you could even be an entrepreneur until I was like 30. So it was just like not even on my radar. I was supposed to be like a teacher or counselor. I worked in government for 10 years. Like but I was always, I wasn't happy with that, obviously, so I left it, but I didn't even know about it. So I'm always like so inspired to hear these stories. And I'd love to know, like, what is that genesis story? Like, how did you come to this? And I know I didn't say I was going to ask you this, but like, I'm just so fascinated. So if you're willing to share, I would love to kind of hear about that.
Well, I didn't even know I could be an entrepreneur until last summer.
Right.
And it was a word that I never even thought about. Even when I was applying for the entrepreneurship program that we were in last summer, I just thought of it as, oh, I've never learned about business, and this would be a great opportunity to really understand how that whole world works. And I think for me, it was just that growing up, I honestly would have loved to become like an Avenger or the Southeastern version of an Avenger, right? And so becoming a superhero to solve the world's problems. And I think that over time, I was always working in different initiatives that were helping my community, that were helping the people around me and solving the problems that I saw. But I didn't think of that as entrepreneurial. I was just like, oh, I have this idea. I want to fix this problem. And so sooner than later, I mean, in the past year, I've really learned that when you are solving these problems, you are solving problems for people and the community around you that's leaving social impact, that in itself is entrepreneurship. You are building, you are creating. And I think that's sort of where my mind shift went. I was like, okay, well, I can be an entrepreneur, but it's not just that. For me, it's about leaving something for the community, creating something that is real, authentic, that helps people in a way that is improving their life, their health and well-being, and ensuring that the next generation doesn't have to deal with certain problems that we're facing right now.
Yeah. Oh, I resonate with that so much. And it was a very similar kind of origin story for me where I was like, I'm going to change the world. And like, this is just happening. And I had no notion that there was any like limitations on that whatsoever.
Totally. Yeah. No, I feel you. No limits.
No. Yeah. But I know, and I was always working on these projects. I was always volunteering, always doing advocacy, but I didn't know that could be an actual job and something I actually pursued and like would love and can define in my own way. And so it was and it was the same. Like I was like, what is this business thing about? I don't know. I know about nonprofit work, I know about government, but I know about academia, but like, what's this making money situation? So I sat down with my now business partner. I was like, so what is this entrepreneurship thing? And he was like, oh, well, like where do you want to start? And he started talking about something I don't even know what you're talking about. I was like, no. Like I literally, what does entrepreneur mean? Like, can we just take a step back? I don't even understand the concept.
I remember, Melanie, Michelle and I, we were asked to create this promotional video, and we had to look into the camera and say something along the lines about being an entrepreneur. And we looked at each other and we were like, I don't think we can do this because we still didn't feel comfortable on saying that word. We didn't resonate with that. Yeah. But then over time, really looking at it through the social lens, we were like, okay, yes, social entrepreneur. This works. This works.
Yeah. I feel that. Yeah, I was very similar. Yeah. It actually took me a good like year and a half to say I am an entrepreneur or I am entrepreneurial, which was the first step for me. That I am like I'm an entrepreneurial thinker.
Yes.
So now I often talk about that, especially with women, I find, and girls. We talk about entrepreneurial thinking a little bit more because it feels a little bit more accessible, I think, based on how we've been socialized and such. So I think that's really interesting. So thank you so much for sharing that. So I know we're getting to the end of this now, and I've kept you on longer than I promised. It's just so fascinating. And I'd love to know, is there anything that we haven't talked about yet that you wanted to share here today, or do you feel like you touched it all?
No, I'm just super grateful to have this space to share with you and discuss our entrepreneurial journeys. And just really excited that if anyone out there ever needs any help on anything, any advice, or just needs to know those few steps of getting started, I'm more than happy to take the time to have that conversation with anyone who has joined us today.
Yeah, amazing. So please, everyone, do reach out to Ravina and her team. I can vouch for the fact that they do seem to actually respond to every single person who reaches out to them, and is incredibly supportive.
I'll give my co-founder the props. She is the best email replier in the world, hands down. So fast, quick, it's amazing.
Yes, so they're incredible supporters, and just do check them out, follow them, get involved in some way. Again, that's We Are FLIK, and it's kind of We Are FLIK on all the things is what I'm hearing on LinkedIn and Instagram and their website and everything. So go check that out. If you've just joined at the end here right now, welcome, first of all, but also we're just wrapping up. So it's going to be turned into an IGTV. It'll be on our IGTV, but it'll take a few minutes to do so, or a little bit of time. I think my marketing coordinator needs to do some magic in the back end, but it will be on our IGTV. You can check out the rest of the interview. They're really, really fascinating, hearing about the origin story of both FLIK, but as well as Ravina, and about everything that she's really excited to talk about, and it's just like, I'm just so impressed by everything that you're doing. Really amazing. Kind of lots of little like gems and bits of wisdom if you're listening back here today. So please do. And then otherwise, I will be back here, I think on Thursday. Usually it's Tuesdays at this time every week, but I do have one on Thursday because our Thursday founder, Anna from My Momentum from Vancouver, also another really incredible woman founder. She, who, if you haven't connected with Ravina, that would be a good person to connect with, Anna Chen. Yeah, so she'll be here on Thursday because she wasn't able to do our August one. So come back and to have more founder chats. And as a last question, something I really like to ask is, what is one thing that brings you joy right now?
Ooh, right now. Oh my God, there's so many things. I mean, besides from FLIK, because I love it so much.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed my mom is teaching me how to learn Punjabi dancing and Kathak dancing. So that's been quite the experience because I was like,
Yeah.
I want to take lessons. I want to learn it properly. And she's like, I can teach you. And I was like, can you really? And she's like, yeah, I learned it 20 years ago, but I can do it. So she's been teaching me that, and that's been really exciting. And I just love Bollywood music, Hindi and Punjabi music. So it's been super fun. That's been really bringing me joy
Mm.
outside of doing FLIK.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Oh, cool. Okay. So thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate it. And thank you again, everyone who's joined us here today. It's always lovely to have people in the room with us and to get to know you a little bit better, and vice versa. So thanks everyone for joining us. And thank you again, Ravina, for providing your time and your story here today. It was lovely chatting with you. And I hope we can do it again in the future.
Yes,
You're always welcome on our anythings. So
I would love that. Thank you, Melanie, so
cool.
much.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.